One of the most exhausting things about parenting is arguing with your kids and having to say no all the time. That's the conversation we're tackling today on the podcast. Hey, I'm Catherine from the Our Nuclear Family podcast. I am a homeschool mama of 3 beautiful kiddos. My husband, Matthew, is a nuclear launch officer in the U.S. Air Force. And really, we love talking all things parenting. And our goal is to encourage and inspire other parents as we walk this journey together. If you like what you hear, we would love for you to subscribe so that we can spend more time together. And also, a thumbs up is a great compliment, and we appreciate everyone. Hope you enjoyed the episode.
Hey there, and welcome to Our Nuclear Family, a podcast for fueling your parenting reactor and bringing child-rearing encouragement to critical mass. We hope our fusion of ideas will lead you to enjoy raising responsible kids in an unpredictable world. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Catherine, and today we're talking about making saying no count. We have set our countdown to impact timer for 30 minutes, so let's launch into the conversation.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is going to be fun, I think.
I think so too.
Like a lot of our conversations, we love talking about parenting, right? You would agree with that?
Yes, we love talking about parenting.
Would you say that we love being parents?
Yes, I would.
And that our kids are fun to be around most of the time?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And would you say that one of the things that makes parenting our kids so much fun is arguing with them?
No.
No, definitely not.
Right, Garrett is he's 9, right, when we're recording this, almost 10 in February. And he is in that stage that maybe some of your parents can relate to, where he has to challenge everything you say.
Right.
So
the sky is blue.
And he'll be like, I would say it's more of a light blue.
Right.
And you're like, blue is blue, my friend.
Right.
Was that necessary argument? You know, or what did he say? Oh, yesterday, Renee was getting ready for basketball, and she goes, I have time. I was like, you take forever, child, to get ready to go. Please just get ready to go first, and then you can do whatever you want to do. I was like, you need to, change your clothes. You need to get your shoes on, get your water bottle. Garrett's like, and if you were playing soccer, you would need to put on your cleats. And we're like,
right. We're like, okay.
I don't know how that added to the conversation.
Right.
She still needs to put on shoes either way.
Right. And then, he liked to backtracked that a little bit. He's like, well, what I meant was shin guards. You'd have to put on shin guards too.
Right. He just has to.
He's got to be right. He's
got to be right also. And it's kind of a brain drain.
It is.
Reaction that he's having to argue with everything, to disagree or add his 2 cents to everything. And I know he's just trying to feel that out, like he feels big enough to be a part of the conversation. But anyway, but that's not really what we're talking about today.
No, it's not. But it is, something that we deal with a lot, and we run into the arguing with Riley Ann, who's 4, and you say, can I watch my computer? No. But can I just watch a little bit? No.
Please.
She knows all the right buttons to push to try to get her way. And
we're asking when we're totally distracted. She
right.
knows to do that.
Right. When we're in the middle of doing something completely different, talking, having one of those nothing arguments with Garrett, right. She'll pop in and be like, can I have a snack? Can I watch? Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So, needless to say, arguing, definitely a big, huge part of what parenting can be sometimes, but not our favorite part.
Definitely not our favorite part. But it is a I mean, it happens,
Sure.
even with our kids whom we love and would say that we enjoy parenting and are fun to be around most of the time. There
Yeah.
are still going to be those moments where someone will come up to us and ask us something, and our initial reaction will be, no, you can't do that.
Right.
Like, no, you can't just start baking or,
Right. Because we're leaving in 5 minutes.
right. And, even if we're not, even if we're staying home for the whole
Right.
day, it's really easy to just be like, just no, just have that be our default answer as parenting,
Right.
as parents.
Yeah, it is. It's easy to do.
Certainly a lot of different reasons for that. Like, when you're talking about cooking, there's a safety issue, perhaps. Like, I'm in the middle of helping someone else, with their thing, and I can't supervise you with the oven,
Right.
and you're 4, you know,
Right.
or, there's, can I go across the street when you're not out there, and it changes over time.
Yeah,
But
obviously, as they get older, and
as they
stuff,
get
your
older.
no's change. Or, that safety no changes a little bit. I'm
Right.
sure.
Right. But safety is definitely a big reason to
Sure.
say no.
Yeah, I would say another one is just for me. When I fall into this habit of no, it's because I'm just tired. Like I just don't want to think about it anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
I can't think about that right now. I'm just too tired. And so
Right.
I just say no.
Yeah. It's just too much. I got nothing for you. Like,
The day's been too long. Just
right.
no.
Right. And I think another part of that is you're faced with so many decisions throughout a day,
Yeah.
and things that you have to think about, that it can be really easy to just be like, no, and just set that as the default answer and just be like, I'm too tired to even think about what you're asking me, so I'm just going to say no.
Right. So it's like decision fatigue almost.
Right.
Like I just can't make another choice. So I'm just going to have that say no.
In the movie We Were Soldiers, there's a scene where the main character, Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore, is talking with one of his young soldiers, Second Lieutenant Jack Gagan, who just became a father. Jack asks Colonel Moore what he thinks of being a soldier and a father, and I love Colonel Moore's reply. He says, "I hope being good at one makes me good at the other." That sentiment is what drove me to write my book, Nuclear Leadership. An ICBM operator splits the leadership atom. I want to be a better leader, and I want to be a better parent, and I hope being good at one makes me good at the other. If you feel the same way, head on over to Amazon and get Nuclear Leadership by MD Omaha, available in paperback, ebook, and Audible.
Which is why we're talking about this, right? Because we don't actually feel like no is a great default answer to have.
Right. There's, and we'll go into what are some of the things that we can say instead, but why don't you like no as being the default?
So a lot of times, one of the reasons I don't like no as a default is because often I actually wasn't listening to my kids very closely or as closely as I should have been. And I'm sad to say that it happens more than it should for sure, but it does happen where I'm just kind of half listening to them because I'm working on something else and then they're talking to me. And so I'm like, no. But then I didn't actually hear what they said, so I changed my mind. And when I hear what they said, I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, that's fine. And not that it's never okay to change your mind, but really, I really strive for my yes to be yes and my no to be no. And so when I say no and then backtrack to yes, it kind of makes me sound really inconsistent.
Right. Well, and it makes the kids want to ask again. and again and again until you say yes.
Right.
Like kids will, if you always default to no, and then your kid asks again and again and again until you say yes,
Right.
they're going to continue to argue because they know, hey, I just have to wear her down to that fifth question.
Right.
And
right. They're smart. They could not articulate that, but they're smart enough to know that.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
And it really brings my not listening to my kids to the surface when I don't listen and say, give an answer and then take it back. Right. So
yeah, it's a little guilt trippy for you.
Yeah. Well, and to them, like,
Yeah.
oh, wait, what? And it really shows them, like, I wasn't listening to you. And
Yeah.
nobody likes that feeling.
Right.
So that's not the kind of mama I desire to be. That's not my heart for my kids. So
right. Yeah, everybody wants to be listened to, but especially our kids who, like, you're the only people that they're talking to.
right.
You know, it's one thing for someone who's outside the house to not listen to you. Like, you know that you're not their biggest priority. Even as a kid, I think you know that, like a 5 or 6 year old.
Yeah, the
kid.
checkout person at King Supers who you're trying to talk to.
Right.
They really might not care.
Right. But for your parents to not care, that's a different level
Right.
of hurt.
Right.
You know,
and they wouldn't even know really that they're hurt by that.
exactly.
Like, no judge. I mean, I do that, but
it happens.
it happens.
And
But that's not our heart. That's not what we want our kids to think about us. So that's, definitely one of the major reasons that that having your default to be no is kind of a sad thing.
For sure. For sure. And I think, I love, letting our yes be yes, letting our no be no, I think is really important, especially as we talk about consistency between parents as well. Like, if mom says no, one of the other classic kids' tactics is to go ask dad.
Right.
And then, if the dad doesn't say, like if I don't say, what'd your mom say? And I just say yes, well, then there continues to be this inconsistency, and kids know that they can get away with it.
Right.
And that they can, so that's a big no-no in our family. Like if mom catches you doing something she says no to, and then dad is doing it, allowing you to do it, like.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a big no, hard pass in our family if you ask one parent and then you even get caught asking the other parent.
Yes.
Like, I have already said no.
Right.
And because I can't blame you if the kid goes to you and you made a different decision than I made. I mean, if you heard me say no.
Right. That would be different.
Then we need to have a conversation.
Right.
But if you didn't hear me, if you're upstairs and whatever, and the kids say, and you're like, sure, whatever, that's fine. That's a kid heart issue. That's not a you and me issue.
Right.
But I think one of the important things to point out is that then we try to not get mad at each other for that.
Yeah.
Try.
Right.
And say, hey, actually, and it's not that hard to not get mad, because we're pretty good about being like, hey, actually, I already said no to that.
Because X, Y, and Z that you weren't aware of.
Or even if I don't give my reasons or you don't give your reasons, that's not the point. We can discuss reasons later.
Yeah.
But to say, I already said no.
Right.
And for you or me to back each other up and say, oh, first of all, mom already said no, so that's a no. And
right.
Secondly, you can't ask the other parent, so you're double in trouble.
Right.
Yeah. And having a thing, but backing each other up, and then later maybe being like, why did you, or separately or whatever. The kid doesn't need to hear all those reasons. They just need to know that parents back each other up.
Right. Exactly. Because what we're striving for is consistency.
Right.
And that kids know that when mom or dad says no, that there's a reason behind it, and that they're going to be that mom and dad are going to follow through with that, because otherwise the arguments can continue.
Right.
Because it's going to be consistent either way, right? Whether you say no and then change your mind later, or whether you say no and stick to it, there's a level of consistency there. It's either going to be a consistent no, or it's going to be a consistent battle.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good.
But this consistency is important for kids because they like knowing what the rules are, and they like knowing the expectations,
Yeah.
and they like knowing that there are consequences. And even though, we think that we might be protecting them, by being the nice parents and coming in and rescuing and changing our minds, like,
okay, you're right. That's not such a big deal.
right. What are we teaching? We're teaching them that the standard can be adjusted,
right,
if necessary.
Right. And just like you said, kids really like consistency.
Right.
They want to know what is expected of them. And
well, there's safety. Like, can you just imagine if the walls of the house moved, like, all the time? Like, there's comfort in knowing that the walls are set
right,
where they're supposed to be,
right,
and that, we're not going to get crushed in the middle of the night when we go to sleep, or, like, it's just boundaries, whether we're driving down the road and know that the car next to you is going to stay in their lane.
Ideally.
And not cross lanes, like,
that's the rule.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the expectation. And that allows us to not think as much about those things. Like, we're not constantly going down the road, gripping the steering wheel, white knuckled, like, man, I really hope that the cars on either side of me stay where they're supposed to be.
Right.
Because there's a consistent expectation.
Right.
So I think that's really important. So
yeah, so not only does it make our life a little bit nicer and more argument free, but also it creates safety and like a safety net and consistency with our kids, which is really great. And I think one thing that we've kind of noticed is that the kids might try to argue with us, but we really don't argue with our kids. The kids can try with us, but our no, once we figured out that this is really important. Like, the Bible says that we know is important, but you don't realize that you're falling into this trap of changing your mind or being wishy-washy or decision fatigue and just saying, no, oh, stop arguing. Yes. Like, I'm trying to have a conversation.
Right.
Yes. Just do it.
I'll say whatever I can to make the noise stop.
Just stop. Yeah. Just make the noise stop. But just like we said that, we are either going to be consistent in one way or the other, we do actually also have a consistent feedback for our kids. So whether it's a default no, or whether it's a default yes, or something else, we just fall into habits. That is the human condition.
Right.
It's habit-based. We are creatures of habit. So,
right. Because like you said, like, the opposite side of, saying no all the time is saying yes all the time.
Right.
And that has its own can of worms. I don't think it's the normal, I think most of the time as parenting, we're trying to rein our kids in. We're not, we don't tend to, over allow things and be like, yeah, matches? Sure. Knock yourself out,
Right.
I think we're constantly trying to restrain them, or, not restrain, but like keep them safe.
Right. We're trying to keep them safe.
And like we said too, like the energy that it requires to parent is pretty
significant.
Significant.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason why we're doing this before they wake up. Like why
Right.
we're recording before they wake up. Like because otherwise there's just so much other things going on that get in the way.
It's no secret that parenting can feel messy. Here's a messy moment shared with us by Sarah.
As many parents know or find out that when your children go silent for too long, that usually means that they are up to mischief, unless you can see them. So that is what happened when my 2 and 3-year-old went quiet for a bit too long, and I couldn't find them anywhere. I searched the house for what felt like way too long and finally found them sitting in the back of my daughter's closet. My daughter was passing my son an open bottle of travel-size mouthwash. So apparently they had been sharing the bottle in the back of the closet with each other, and I was instantly transported to my future when they're teenagers. But luckily, from now until that time, I have a lot of parenting left to do.
Oh my goodness, girl. Good luck. Sounds like they have a great sibling bond going. For messy moments in our home, we trust Norwix for a clean I can feel good about. No harsh chemicals allows me to clean quickly and without worry. Check it out at kditson.norwix.biz. If you would like to share your own messy parenting moment, you can record a voicemail we can use on the show by going to ournuclearfam.com and clicking on the podcast tab for more information.
So I guess the question then becomes, if not no, then what?
Right. So you could, it could be lots of different things. The thing that we have chosen to use, and I think we have made the switch, over the last many, many years. Like we first started, we talk about saying no all the time. Actually, it's just fun for us. But many, many years ago when our kids were even littler, Garrett was little, we decided that we wanted to change our default setting to I'll think about it. And that has worked really well for us.
It has. And there's so much interesting psychology out there that kind of led us to start thinking about why do we say no to our kids, and what are some of the consequences, and we've talked about some of those here. But let me think about it. As a default, kind of it allows us to, because maybe we're getting interrupted. We
Right.
mentioned that, like I'm doing something else and you come up to me and you ask me this question, can I bake? Can I do whatever? And I'm not really interested in, I can't devote any mental energy to answering that question right now. So I could say no, or I could say, let me think about it. And it just kind of allows us a little bit of space to ponder that, finish up what we're doing, and then
Weigh the pros and cons of allowing whatever.
Right. And actually think about it, and to also evaluate what our reason is for wanting to say no in the first place.
Right. Because usually it's selfish.
Right. Oftentimes it is like, that's going to be a lot of dishes that I'm going to end up cleaning.
Right.
Or,
which is a whole nother podcast, because that should not be.
Right. But that's,
But that's the thought process, right?
Especially when they're young.
Yeah, especially when they're really little. Like, I just got this house cleaned up and now you want to play with Play-Doh?
Right.
Why? Why is it always after I mop that you want to play with paint? Like, every time.
Every time. It's so true.
It's like a trigger.
It is. It's like, oh, there's a clean spot of carpet that I could, cover in paint or whatever.
Mom just vacuumed Play-Doh.
Clean slate. It's like a blank canvas.
It totally is. It totally is. So, and to be clear, we are not against no. We're not against saying no.
Absolutely.
We believe in no.
Yes.
We're big believers. That could be its own podcast too. Like, we believe in no, and the psychology behind no. The world says no.
Right. And it's important that our kids hear it
and know how to handle.
Right. and know that there are reasons for saying no, more than just mom and dad aren't interested or something like that. Like there's legitimate reasons. Like, no, because it's going to make a huge mess right before dinner, or it's going to, whatever the reason may be. There's lots of legitimate reasons that someone would say no to you. And in the real world, as we're trying to grow adults, we're raising kids, but we're raising them into adulthood.
Right.
And we would love to teach some of the world's hard lessons when it's not actually that hard.
Right.
And when the consequences are small, and when they're in a loving environment.
Right. You can say no kindly and with empathy and with love. But I feel like with the I'll think about it, the other perk that comes from saying something like I'll think about it, or just give me a minute to ponder that, or however you want to say it, is it gives that kid value, right? Like, I really want to think about what you're saying so I don't make a jump decision,
Right.
And I think that's
important too.
That's important for them to feel valued enough that I would think, and I would go on to say that this works both with kids and adults.
Yeah.
Like, we say this to each other. I know ladies, if they've been in my Bible study, or if they, our CC campus or whatever, it's like, it truly has become my default setting, even when, and has helped my mental clarity life when somebody asks me to do something.
Right.
Oh man, that sounds like a great opportunity, or possibly a great idea. Let me think about that.
Yeah.
Let me think about that. Because, or even if somebody's gives me a challenge or something, like, wow, I need to think about that. Because if you know me, you know that I am an out loud speaker.
Right.
And thinker.
Yeah. Everybody's an out loud speaker.
Everybody's an out loud speaker. I'm an out loud thinker.
You like to process things out loud.
Out loud.
Yep.
But many, 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 many times in my life, that has really gotten me kind of in hot water. And that is, I say things that I don't mean, or it comes out wrong. And I really want it to come out with love and grace and,
empathy and all of those
great
things.
Fuzzy
Right.
things, and just sound like I know what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And you are really good at that. That has been a constant, like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? What are you thinking? And you're like, I'm trying to process what you told me. Like,
right.
So it has helped us both to say, let me think about that. And not think about it for long, even sometimes, and then the nice thing with adults is I'm like, but I need something. Could you process out loud? And I will not hold you to anything you say.
Right.
Right. But it helps everybody, because you're putting thought into what somebody's asking of you, whether it's to sign up for the PTA or to lead, whatever,
be some sort of chaperone or whatever.
Yeah.
And I know for you, in those kind of adult situations where you're having these conversations with people and they're like, can you do this? Can you do this? Your heart and your personality, which we'll dig into at some point, I think, because personality is super interesting. But your default is to say yes.
Yeah.
And you're a people pleaser.
Yes, I am.
So you want to be all these things to all these people, and then you can find yourself stretched thin.
Right.
And so having a setting as an adult to say, let me think about it, can be really helpful, because then you take it back home and you can say, okay, if I add this to my plate, what else needs to fall off of it? Or can I keep them all on the same plate?
Right. Or do I actually just not want to do that?
Right.
Because I don't like
Like, I would love to say yes to this person that I'm seeing face to face and I want to help them.
Right. It's really.
But the task that you're asking me to do, I don't actually. No, that's not.
I don't like doing
That's
that.
not me. So.
Right. And so to have the same default answer for both adults and my kids, though, makes it really easy on me.
Right.
To
In any
practice
situation. Right.
But it did and does take a lot of practice
Right.
and intentionality.
Right.
Because even now, sometimes I get such brain fatigue that I
Right.
want to just say no right away. And
Right. It's not like the printer settings on the computer where you just click a button and you say, "Oh, now I have a new default setting." I go, now I
Right.
printed this printer. It's not.
Right.
It's not that simple to change your default settings so that what you're saying is different over time, because those grooves in your brain are deep.
right, you've been hearing that and then doing that since you were a little kid.
Right.
You know, I mean, somebody takes your toy. No, like that hardwired no is a thing.
Right.
Or as an adult and a people pleaser like me, the hardwired yes.
Right.
Right. For our kids though, like having the practice to say, let me think about that. And especially when we were first starting to change our vocabulary, I definitely remember being like, no, actually, let me think about it. Like I would catch myself and be like, no, actually think about it. Let me think about that. And I'm not thinking about it. We're not thinking about it for long. It
Right.
doesn't have to be like,
And I'll get back to you in a week.
well,
Like there's
okay, yeah. Or I don't have to make a chart or anything. Sometimes I'm like, let me think about it. Actually, sure. Or actually,
Right.
no, because, and I do try to give, I think that's another part of it. We
Mhm.
try to give our kids some reason
Right.
and say,
Instead of just because I said no.
because I said no.
Um,
Not that we are not required to give our kids reasons for
no,
no.
definitely not.
But it does help them see that no is coming from a logical place, not a selfish place. And sometimes it is selfish, but
Right.
but I can even cop to that. I would love to say yes to you right now, but I am so tired that I cannot.
I just don't have the mental capacity for that right now.
Right, I don't have the mental capacity to play tackle football with you right now.
Right.
I would love to say yes. So my no, I can still, even if it's a selfish reason for saying no, which is valid, I want to tell him, like, it's not because I don't want to play with you. It's because I just don't have it in me today
Right.
or right now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it certainly takes a lot of practice. But I think it's helpful because, a big part of parenting is, pre-thinking things. How am I going to act in this certain situation? But you can't foresee every possible situation that your kids are going to come up with. You can't foresee, like Garrett asking us, can I make a flying suit and jump off the roof? Like, no, definitely no. But can you design a suit? Like, you can't jump off, but
Well, at least not now.
not right now. Yeah, like not
Right.
not today with the cardboard that you have. Like
Right.
that's definitely not going
Can
to
you
work.
jump off with your cardboard? No. Can you design a flying suit? Let me think about that.
Right. Let me think about that. And designing versus building, and yeah, I mean that's all
Right. But if we said absolute no to all of it,
right.
we're robbing him of this learning opportunity.
Yeah.
So it is, we try to pre-plan as much as possible, but
Yeah. But we always have let me think about it as an out for those moments that pop up that are completely off the wall.
right, which is happening more and more as our kids get older, let me say.
Right.
All right, so our timer, impact to timer.
Countdown to impact timer.
Thank you. Went off.
Yes.
So what's our takeaway, babe?
Our takeaway
Like
is
our brain nugget.
yeah. Let's try to not have no be our default answer, and we'll change it to something else that works a little bit better and gives us a little bit more space to think.
Excellent.
Till next time.
Thanks for listening. Before you go, please give us a 5-star rating and be sure to hit the subscribe button to get your next spark of insight or explosion of encouragement.
You can also keep up with Our Nuclear Family by following us on social media or get in touch with us by email at ournuclearfam@gmail.com. Till next time.